The teachers here are not training students on crisp answers.
They drive them to be an icon or a beacon to show others a good path.
Creativity. So creativity is not critical thinking. Can you just elaborate? Can you create a distinction between critical thinking and creativity?
Why we brushed on these particular terms for them to really distinguish between these terms?
So now they're researching more.
Yes. They could easily relate this act in their everyday life.
So grade 6 you're taking.
Yeah, grade 6, where I had asked them, like, state 5 facts. What is the reasons? What could be the substitute for such a player?
And they would also expect answer to their question from you.
Yes.
And it could be any question.
Very good.
Hello, this is Nilima Guge, middle school teacher teaching science and core physics.
Hello, this is Hital Far. I teach chemistry and mathematics.
Hello, I'm Lina Fernandez. I teach biology, I teach environmental sciences.
Hello, I'm Neetu Nagdev. I take up science with core biology and chemistry.
Hello, this is Satvika Shinwai. I teach science for grade 5th to 7th.
Hello, myself Varsha Bhalera. I teach middle school science.
Hi, I'm Abhishek Kariwal. I'm co-founder of Open Door Education.
Hi, welcome to the Critical Thinking Podcast. Today I'm joined by amazing teachers from Fravashi International Academy. Today's world is full of answers. The teachers here are not training students on crisp answers, but they are teaching students the art of questioning. So welcome teachers once again to this podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Let's begin with one simple question. What is that one thing that you like about teaching? You can just give quick answers to this question.
A passion to make beautiful individuals and a love that can drive them to be an icon or a beacon to show others a good path.
Passion to develop good citizens, good individuals.
I'm joined here because I love to be with children, and here we are getting the chance to develop citizens for our upcoming generation.
Interesting.
For me, basically, I think more than teaching them, it's everyday learning from them new things and helping those curious minds with whatever knowledge we have and with whatever depth we can explain them the things
Okay.
around.
Does teaching also act as a stress buster sometimes? That something was going in your mind and then suddenly you took a class and then you forgot everything?
I think it keeps the child in us alive. So we
Okay.
feel more young and enthusiastic when we are surrounded by young minds.
Interesting. Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, sir. Teaching helps us to, for the students, when we teach, if we have a stress in our mind,
Like, this is one profession that you can actually make a difference in somebody's life. Like, you understand a child's skill type and then guide him around the same, or understand what's the attitude of the child, or what profile the child can build on and for his future. So it's a beautiful, education journey that we are a part of. And after 10 years, when the child meets us, suppose in a marketplace or something, that no other profession gets that much respect, that what a teacher, she was my teacher. So they always come up and meet you, and that's the basic satisfaction that a teacher's life has.
Interesting. So you all are teaching critical thinking. Some of you, for you, it is the second year of teaching. So critical thinking is the buzzword in the today's world, and everybody talks about it. And it is being used interchangeably for different skills also. Everything good is critical thinking. That is how it is being perceived. So can you share your thoughts on what is not critical thinking?
Maybe on a sorry.
Creativity. So creativity is not critical thinking. Can you just elaborate? Can you create a distinction between critical thinking and creativity?
When the children, they ask like for the art and all, when they have to draw, so there they have to use their imagination.
Right.
They don't have to think critically.
They don't have to think critically. Now, what do you mean by thinking critically?
They don't have to analyze the situation. They don't have to evaluate some facts or certain things. So they just have to use their own imagination.
Right. So creativity is an important skill, but it is not critical thinking. I mean, these are two different things. So very, very interesting thought.
I think solving puzzles doesn't require
Critical thinking.
Like, because you're just reasoning, logic,
Right.
shifting.
With some bit of, but not a pure form of
Pure form of critical
thinking.
You're not analyzing, you're not evaluating anything.
Right.
You're simply at times if you're playing a simple Sudoku, or
Yeah.
just finding 5 differences, 3
Yeah.
out of 2 between two
Right.
pictures.
Right.
So we're not using critical thinking there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just a
Right.
simple logic
Right.
that's being applied.
Right.
I guess even on the field when they play the sports,
Right.
they don't have to really think critically.
Right.
They enjoy the game. They come forward with with their energy, and they just give it whatever they have to give it, and they really are a part of the field where they are a team spirit is created, and they just work out very well.
Right.
So win-win situation or win-loss situation, they don't have to think critically about it.
So how is your critical thinking classes coming up? Can you share 1 or 2 examples from your classes and how students took those cases and how you felt about it?
So last year when we started critical thinking, it was a new subject for all of us, even for the students and for the teachers. So when we started explaining terms like interpretate, analyze, evaluate, we quietly brushed on these particular terms for them to really distinguish between these terms very well. So once they distinguished these terms and when we applied it to the cases that were given in the books, especially we really enjoyed the fake news. Which was a part of the grade 7, one of the series book, and when the student came up with Maggie does not cook in 2 minutes,
Right.
and they actually made the charts, they brought the packets, and they were like all in the classroom, as a teamwork, that this doesn't work. Then there was somebody who came up with a juice or a drink that this doesn't work. So they started thinking, and the same group now has gone to the higher grade. Now they are working more whatever they study or whatever they do, they have gone into the world of research. So I find that it has helped them to evolve more as good thinkers, that they do not digest the fact just the way it is given to them.
Right. So now they're researching more.
Yes.
And Neelima ma'am.
For me, when we started teaching them the simple basic terms, evaluation. So it was just, is that information correct? What are you going to find it out? So we had a group discussion, just a group discussion, simple, like is using internet good or bad, it's harmful. So many children came up with the idea that it's not good, it's harmful. But one of my child who was very quiet, she never used to answer. She came up with the view that no, it's not harmful. Social media is not harmful because there are many small entrepreneurs, people who come up with their business,
Right.
some important issues which are being tackled on the social platform. So she came up with the idea, she came up with a new concept that it's not harmful, it's how we use it and how we perceive it and see at it. So after that, then we had a healthy group discussion that how it's not harmful also and it's not that useful also, it's upon how we use the So that was a critical thinking which I saw 2 groups doing debating. One spontaneously came up with the idea that it's harmful. But the one who was very quiet, she said, no, it's not harmful, and she tried to convince them, and then there was a healthy discussion.
Interesting. So Neetu ma'am, a different question for you. Which case study has worked the best for you?
I think we started initially with confirmation bias, where I felt that yes, they liked it. Framing bias also went well, but I think functional fixedness is something that kids are really enjoying, right? Especially, they could easily relate this in their everyday life, I would say. So there are many things in their daily life that they come across, like simple spoons, nails, forks. Now they've started identifying alternate uses. So
Right.
initially they got to know that, when we see a spoon, we just think that, it's a medium of eating food, But the spoon can be used as an opener. They suddenly thought about that. Or maybe, a teacup can be used as a bird feeder.
Yeah.
So they've come up, functional fixedness, I realized that yes, they've really enjoyed. And as I mentioned earlier also, that now we have come to circular reasoning fallacy, which is another topic which I feel that they are able to relate it to their daily life.
You're telling about some student using this in their house and understanding how it's being given.
We just started with this topic yesterday, with, circular reasoning fallacy. So a very simple example was given in the book, that why does the sun rise from the east? Mother says, because the sun, early in the morning you see the light coming from the east. So immediately the child came and told me that, ma'am, Last time my mother said it's 9 o'clock and it's time to go to bed. Okay, so when I asked her why, she said, yeah, because it's 9 and you should be on bed at this time. So that was circular fallacy, ma'am. I said, yes, exactly. So that's how they could relate things at home also. And the best part is they do discuss these things with their parents, maybe knowing unknowingly.
Interesting. Varsha ma'am?
The best discussion that we had was about fact, opinion, and anecdotes.
The grade 6 you're taking.
Yeah, grade 6, where I had asked them, state 5 facts that state 5 opinions, state 5 anecdotes. And then they had a small discussion over which was the best cricket player. That time IPL was going on. So instead of having an argument amongst themselves, they thought of bringing in data that could, state which player actually plays and which player should get the best auction in the next IPL.
Right.
So that was a wonderful activity that we conducted. And based on those facts, their opinions about the players also changed. Like, not necessary that, Virat Kohli has to play for the next IPL. What is the reasons? What could be the substitute for such a player? So these things, children never used to discuss. They just had one idle player in their mind.
Right.
But now they have started researching on these players also, like those sports person. It can be football players also. Like, we have a very constant kind of, arguments who's the best football player. Like, it's Messi or Ronaldo. Like, the boys usually have it.
Yeah.
But now they have come down to the conclusions based on data. Not that I like him. So that was the best thing that I loved about
Classroom, we have started having this formation of groups.
Yeah.
So when the students sit in the group, they don't think about with whom they are sitting. Maybe a good learner with a very low or middle learner, so average learner maybe. So there's a lots of exchange of ideas, and the team that when they come together to present that particular case, whatever they come together, they show it that we are trying to prove our point against the other team. So there's a healthy discussion, there's a healthy environment, and that study doesn't remain as a study, or the part doesn't remain as a part. But at the end of the day, they've enjoyed the session and they've enjoyed whatever they've learned, and they come out with good evaluations.
I think adding up to this, I think innovation and collaboration both work hand in hand, when we're having group discussions in the class.
And activities, when we give them a A4 size papers, okay, and we just tell them, the group, okay, now you have been given so much of time, put whatever comes into your mind, okay. So the way they come together with the ideas, some come up with cartoons, some come up with captions, okay, and that is beautifully done, out of the box.
So they're not basically asking them or giving them the answers. They're asking them to ask the right questions. This is what a difference what I have found when we do critical thinking. Instead of getting answers from them, ask the correct questions based on whatever concepts we are teaching them. They can bring it with any subject, be it their languages, be it your GP, sciences, maths. So instead of giving answers, they have to come to the right questions or logical reasoning for that particular concept which has been taught.
So were the students surprised initially when we didn't have to answer, but they just have to question?
Yes, they enjoyed that.
Yeah.
They really enjoyed that, to frame their own questions, because we were always in the position that we questioned them and they had to answer. But when you give them the opportunity that they have to frame the question, they came up with elaborate thinking, and they came up with different kinds of questions which they felt was really new, and they enjoyed that. That way, actually, the classes scenario has changed. It is like
the tables have turned.
Yes, the tables have turned.
And they would also expect answer to their question from you.
Yes.
And it could be any question.
Any question.
One more thing that even I could relate when I was teaching Aloys to the chemistry class, and we had this group discussion about how the Titanic sank actually.
Yeah.
So that discussion was somewhere interrelated. I found it transdisciplinary. Children came up with the idea that when such an unsinkable ship like Titanic had actually sunk, the reason was the copper that they used for the whole ship that was there, that couldn't have rusted, but that copper was to make it cheaper. The person who had made the ship had actually put in some kind of iron in it, made it into an alloy, and that is why the iron and the salt water had reacted, and that had caused it to burst, and so the water had entered the ship and made it sink. So that was somewhere I found that they had interrelated the two topics together. That was interesting for me.
Now critical thinking is always fresh in your mind because you're taking classes every week. So is it also becoming more active in your day-to-day life, in your personal life also?
Yes.
Are you using this more now?
I'll share an anecdote.
Yeah.
Just in my recent past, I was planning to invest in a financial product.
Yeah.
So I used my critical thinking skills to evaluate the features of the product, and I just identified the risks involved in it, the potential returns.
Yeah.
So basically, I realized that I was using my critical skills to weigh the pros and cons of the product and then make an informed decision about it.
Right.
So yes, critical thinking does help in our personal life. Maybe, knowingly, unknowingly, but we are using it.
Interesting.
For me, critical thinking, because I'm also into organic farming. So working towards saving native seeds. Okay, so when I go to buy seeds to sow in the farm, there's so many shops and so many varieties of them. Okay, so how do I pick up the one which is original, which is very organic? Okay, I need to really critically think about it. So somewhere I have to have a good research, I have to have a good study about it, and then pick up, because that is something that I'm going to sell it to the other consumers. So the health risk of that particular person is also on me. So me as a person who's producing the bread need to think about it well. So that has helped me to think more about how to go about investing in buying the seeds.
Hital ma'am.
I would like to say now that as we are in a generation where more of for social media, people are posting different articles and we are not aware about it, whether it is true or false. There are people who just forward it blindly. So there are at times where they just believe and they try to follow. But because of critical thinking, we are aware, we analyze that whether the source which is used, is it correct, whether it's scientifically given, and then we can follow it. So it's really helped me to think critically.
Recently, in the building where I stay, nowadays we have a group of 5 to 4 buildings together and all 200 people living over there. We have a big WhatsApp group where everything has been put on, the housekeeping and everything, and there was a big discussion going on that the meter is not picked up from the park, who has done it, the food delivery boy has done everything. And people, without even realizing, started, yes, the housekeeping people are not doing anything, it may spread diseases and all these things. No one, and one started and the discussion continued. But nobody tried to evaluate that we have CCTV cameras. They can look into the footage and actually check, was it from a person who came from outside, a food delivery, or was it something else? After checking, after evaluating the data, it was found that one of the evening family member had only thrown that data on in the children's park. So we need to evaluate things before we judge.
Right. So now we just don't go by our instinct, the first thought. What is your go-to mantra for students in critical thinking class?
Not what to think, but how to think.
Interesting.
I think I always take that to the class before any critical thinking class is scheduled. Not what to think, how to think is more important when you're dealing with discussions and critical thinking.
Can you elaborate more on how to think part? How is it different from what to think?
Let's say if any kind of case study is presented to them, so they need to first infer the meaning, they need to comprehend it. Sometimes, they directly skip to the explicit meaning of it,
right?
Too judgmental about it, and directly come up with the answer. But then sometimes they need to read between the lines, they need to look into the implicit meaning of it,
True.
So I think, that's how they develop the thinking that, okay, let's think what we have to think for.
Interesting point.
Adding on to that, I think so the mantra over here when you go with the critical thinking thought in mind is how will I make the student revolve on that word truth. Okay, the word truth, that because critical thinking is something that's a core intellectual value. So how will they come to that point, that is this really something that is helping me to analyze and come to the point that whatever I've read or whatever I see through, okay, is the truth? Or is it just I'm just taking it for the sake of taking it or understanding it for the sake of understanding it? Somewhere the bottom line is truth. For me, that is the mantra of critical thinking.
Mantra is the truth seeking. Any other mantra?
It's a
Like we say, analyze, evaluate, look for evidence. Just don't follow if it is given.
Right.
Whatever details are given, just go for the evidence and then try to do it.
we had this educational array in our school, which is an event where we had the topic like SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals.
I think every tool comes with its own pros and cons. And then ChatGPT is one of them. Let's say if the child has to do some research, so definitely ChatGPT is good. But at the same time, we don't want them to, kill the creativity inside them, somewhere where they require interpretation skills or analyze data in their personal life also. So we don't expect them to use ChatGPT there. So as I said, yeah, for research skills, definitely, a thumbs up for that. But for other aspects where we really want them to develop certain skills in life, we don't want them to use ChatGPT completely.
Interesting. Some of you have been teachers for the last 20 years, right? 20 years or more than a decade, right? Do you see any shift in the way students are thinking or behaving?
Yes.
Any paradigm shift that you notice?
See, after the pandemic hit, okay, students have become very lethargic. Okay, when it came to writing skills, they never wanted to hold the pen and write. They found that very boring or found it very difficult or painful. Then writing big answers or paragraphs, they were taking a lot of time to adjust to that. Getting back to the notebook and the pen scenario, And over the years, what we have seen the change in them is that there are certain students, who have the ability, who have the caliber to give the best in the class, but they just do not want to do it. They just do not want to do it. Maybe the media could be, or the addictions to the various kind of gadgets have made them to be, lethargic. I have a few examples in my own classroom. I have a student who doesn't come to school only because he would want to learn something in the class. That is what he says. Everything is available at home.
Right.
So might as well I learn at home than spend my time in the classroom. So he will only come to this class only when there are sports lessons taken. So he wants his energy to be vented out on the sports ground. But rather than coming and learning from a teacher or in the classroom, they feel now that is not a need, not a necessity. Everything can be done through the YouTube. You watch the YouTube, you understand the concept, and you can write your papers. And surprisingly, I find that he can just pass away. I mean, he just take the marks and he can just pass away. So he's got an attitude that it's not necessary for me to be in the school, but I can be at home and tutor myself.
This is a very relevant point that you have brought
It has
in.
come, sir, and I'm facing it. And I'm trying to get this child every day, whenever he's coming for the sports day, I said, oh my God, today we need to clap. We literally clap for him. To just encourage him. Okay, today this child has come, so why don't we feel that the class is full? Because every day we have an absentee record. So for me, my class, every day there's an absentee record. So we always say that if our class is full, we feel our family is completely united, our family is full. So this is an issue, this is a realistic issue that I'm facing in my class.
Important point. Just adding on to this, now that information, everything is available, that concepts are also available, good explanations are available. So how would teachers evolve themselves going forward?
I think so, where we have lost the connect, where face-to-face speaking, this face-to-face speaking, being together physically matters a lot. Does matter a lot. Because when you counsel them, when you talk to them, when you keep on giving them the advices that what they're missing, what part of life they are missing by staying at home, okay? Someday then they try to reflect on it. So I found that when I counseled for 2 or 3 sessions, I found that for 1 month the attendance was perfect. But then suddenly again it slows down. For what reason I don't know, whether it's emotional or whatever it is, I couldn't get through that. But yes, when we talk to each other, when I always look at a person and a student, I say, when your eye contact is not with me, I understand that you are into some other world. Okay? So if you are a realistic person, you'll be looking at me, you'll be talking with me, you'll be sharing your ideas, because the other students do that and that particular person doesn't do it. Then you come to know the difference between them then and then itself.
We also have a change in information online also. Like 20 years ago, if I was teaching solar system to a child, there were 9 planets. Suddenly Pluto from 2006 has been deleted by Dr. Dyson. So that makes the children, like if I start the lesson, like earlier there were 9 planets and now why are there 8 planets? So the science lesson becomes interesting when this question is being posed to them. Otherwise, if I just give them, okay, today there are 8 planets, earlier there were 9 planets, it wouldn't be very interesting for a 5th grade child or a 6th grade child. So asking the right and relevant questions is a change that we feel in our teaching this thing. Helping them also to ask questions is also another skill which a teacher needs to develop.
Right.
So, like since in 2021, we used to teach that Jupiter had the highest number of moons, but today we have Saturn as the highest number of moons. So, our information also should be updated as per the change in the information which we find around us. So that's where we feel that the teachers also have to be lifelong learners. So it's not something that you just sit on a stage and you say, okay, I'm always right. There could be questions where the child could also have a query which could be correct and which the teacher is not updated about.
So you're saying that teachers have to keep themselves updated.
Updated, exactly.
And you also said that teachers also need to question.
Correct.
Think of the questions that they can pose to students and also teach students also the art of questioning.
Art of questioning.
This is the mantra for the
correct.
teachers.
And that's what critical thinking is actually giving a foundation to.
Right.
If I would say AI can rule the world, but AI cannot inculcate values in students. So that emotional connect will always be missing with people. That's where our role comes in.
So our jobs are safe.
I think I had one point on this where I think in all these 15 years of teaching where I used to teach, human reproduction was one of my favorite topics as a teacher. I love to bond with the kids because in grade 8 when it was, I used to talk about love, falling in love, then marriage, then the sacrament, like how it is, in depth. And then I spoke about, the male and the female union and all those things. The same concept has now filtered to grade 5.
Okay.
And I've been called to teach grade 5. There's a vast difference of age. For me, it's so difficult to understand. These are just still small babies, and I'm going to explain to them about fertilization. I'm going to explain to them about love. I'm going to explain to them how they were born. So, this idea also for me to filter, go to the classroom and make the classroom so comfortable that the children listen to you as if I'm telling the story of their birth when they are in their mother's womb for 9 months. So, I have to change my thought process. How am I going to give them this knowledge of love, through my teaching and make them understand those big scientific vocabularies. So grade 5, we have come down to grade 5 to teach fertilization or human reproduction or understanding your own body and hormones, all about it. Is a big shift for me also to think as a teacher. So I also have learned how to balance this according to the age groups.
So that's the challenge that is coming every year because the topics are shifting.
Yes.
And you need to kind of modulate it or tailor it for those age groups.
Go to their age because there's so many of them don't even know certain terms. There are some who know beyond it.
Right.
There are some who have not even experienced it. So how to bridge that gap? How to make them feel comfortable with what I'm speaking to them? So that bonding in a classroom is very, very important. Do not know. Very curious learners. Some are very curious learners. Some I'm very amazed. They watch various kind of documentaries and they come out and add up more knowledge to me. But ma'am, do you know this also happens over here? I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And then I listen to them. I give a listening ear, and that is a very beautiful interaction between us.
20 years ago,
30% talk time is a teacher.
That is what you would recommend.
And 70 to 80% students. So whenever we start a particular topic, we usually start with a brainstorming session. So like our typical classes are, we just put the the learning objective, maybe in a couple of words on the board, cloud diagram around it, and then they come up with a lot of points. They brainstorm. Some may be relevant, some may not be relevant. So just to set the class, in tone, we do start up with brainstorming sessions.
Hmm.
That's where their talk time automatically increases.
Right.
And then we realize towards the end of it that, most of the points were covered up by them,
Hmm.
and teaching becomes very easy for us then.
Did we touch upon this? What is your favorite moment in the class until now? We did try to ask for discussions. Any moment in a very short 2-3 lines? Can you just talk about it?
I would really want to share when we did the fake news thing. So even children were surprised when we had given them newspapers. And we had told them, we had given them the idea what you're supposed to do. So even they were surprised that, man, we were not aware about it. So beautifully they had come with different fake news, and even we had taken it as in a collage form. So they had come up with it. So that was a favorite moment for critical.
Interesting. Neelima ma'am?
For me, as I said, that when we had a discussion about using internet or social platforms, is it good or is it harmful? So spontaneous, the answer was harmful. Immediately the response came. I mean, most of them said it's harmful, but one of the child was too introvert. She keeps on listening. She came up with the idea, no ma'am, and she told her classmates also it's not harmful, it's useful also. Because most of the social issues or issues which are there, it's on the
It should not be black and white, everything.
Yeah. And then she also told that even the small entrepreneurs, like for Diwali and all, they can put up their whatever ideas are on the paid social platform, and they can earn by that, the livelihood which they are earning. So after that, then the thought came to the others who were against it that it's harmful, and then they had a healthy discussion in the class. So this collaborative learning and group discussion about how to look at the specific information made them evaluate that all the data which we are gathering is not the fake one. You have to just identify, is it correct or is it not correct.
Leena ma'am?
Yes, I think so. This Virat Kohli and Sachin Tendulkar's that particular episode which is given the textbook. Oh my God, my whole class was on fire. Not only the boys, but even the girls.
Okay.
So
We had this apprehension that how would girls take up this.
Girls, I was quite surprised, like the girls are debating with the boys. No, Sachin Tendulkar is the best. The boys are like voicing out, no, Virat Kohli is the best. But there was a mix. There's a mixed this thing. So they did not go by the
Data
and everything. They had reasons for everything that the other person was asking. If the girls were talking about Sachin Tendulkar being their fan because he scored so much in so many things and he won so many World Cups. They equally had a debating answer for them. Virat Kohli is no less. Okay, so you cannot consider that because he didn't play so many matches, so he's not the great. So this was fantastic observation for me because I took a chair and I sat down. I could not control their arguments, the debate, because everyone wanted to prove that my point was worth it. It was the truth. It was valid, and I will not take the defeat. So this was a very interesting class. I enjoyed this class the most.
And what was the reaction after the analysis?
After the analysis, they all calmed down. They all calmed down because we gave when we were reading it through, okay, they all calmed down to understand that how this is come as an evidence to show that actual who played how much matches, who had batted so many balls, okay. When that analysis came, you could not debate on those numbers. They had to accept it, and they accepted it very willingly and happily. So the classroom settled down over there after we wrote down and discussed the answers on that point, and they were happy about it. They were really happy about it.
So this was not my critical thinking class. I take up chemistry in the same class. So we had these two very sincere and intelligent girls who walk up to me and they said that instead of giving us questions on density and numericals to solve, how about taking up the next discussion of framing bias of critical thinking in this class? So that was really a happy moment for me that, okay, like now they're taking too much keen interest in the subject critical thinking, and instead of going in for chemistry and numericals on density, they want me to take up another discussion on framing bias. So of course that was a very happy moment, and at the same time I felt a little sad about it that I really need to work and make my chemistry lessons more interesting so that I don't have to convert my chemistry classes into all critical thinking ones. So yeah, that was a very happy moment that students look forward for discussions against the normal core academic subjects also.
In my grade 6 class, when I was teaching the science topic states of matter, so that time the students were telling me that in the water filled with the water, if we keep it in the refrigerator and we keep it outside from the refrigerator, the water droplets we see on the bottle. So some of the students were saying that maybe it was leaking. What concept was to be brought by the students was missing there. So then one of the students said, no ma'am, it is a condensation what we can observe. So that time I felt that yes, students are thinking critically, and here they have applied the critical terms, that which means a condensation is happening, and that's the reason we see the water droplets outside the bottle. So this was a nice moment for me in the class when I was
Interesting.
I think when I was teaching identification of keys, like there are two keys, like dichotomous keys and numbered keys. I gave them the examples earlier and I asked them to solve those keys and everything. And the children said, Ma'am, why don't we collect leaves from the garden and make our own keys out of it? And I was a little bit apprehensive, because going out in the rainy season in the garden, like picking up leaves and everything, I said, okay, fine, we'll just do it. With the help of the support staff and everything, we collected the leaves, but they could make those keys, like, how to identify a particular leaf with the help of the key. They could design it themselves. That was a real wow moment for me.
Interesting. So we'll have this last question, last closing, or can we have one? So I wanted to ask more on this line of because you have been teaching, some of you for decades, some of you for 2 decades also. Your advice to the teachers, to young aspiring teachers, maybe just one advice from each of you, so it will be very enriching. So we'll have 6 advices. Yeah, so we'll go in that sequence, or we can okay, so we'll start with Satvika ma'am first. Or you want to think one, whosoever is ready, tell me. You can think maybe, because you have to give one.
For teaching.
Come again?
Passion and zest for teaching.
Passion and zest for teaching. So you need to have that passion.
Because unless and until you have passion and you love the thing, and what you're doing, you should love that thing, then only you can put your 100%.
Reinforce those skills.
You can even bring in the idea of Cambridge curriculum.
This is what the scientific approach what we are having. We are already putting up the scientific.
Yeah.
Children are getting polished.
Separately.
So every time when we take our science classes, it becomes a syllabus covering.
Right. So there is a priority on the science more.
Students have a leisure, like they
You also don't have pressure to cover.
That way,
Yeah.
So we reinforce those skills. We are not syllabus bound here.
Yeah.
ठीक है, I'll take it.
You'll take it up.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, start.
So I guess the passion for the teaching, that was your point.
Yeah, passion and zest for teaching.
Passion.
Unless and until I think so, you love what you want to do, you can't give your 100%. So teaching requires lots of passion for the profession. It's a noble profession. We are into a profession where we are raising and shaping the future, the nation's building block. So a tutor definitely needs to be passionate about her teaching.
Hital ma'am.
I would like to add up what ma'am said. Here we need that passion because children can easily watch videos nowadays. There are different sources available from where they can learn. But here in the classroom, being with the tutor, being with their peers and all, so that connectivity and all, it helps them to learn better. So that should be there.
Okay, so it's like if you really love yourself and you want to reach out with that love to the coming generation, which are deprived of love today. So my teaching would be a tool to connect to them, to mold them, and to make them feel a part of a real living, that they are here. A purpose. You give them a part, and you show them that there's a purpose of their life on this earth. They are just not here for a moment and pass away, but they are here to make a mark. So if a teacher comes to take up this profession, I would say it's a vocation, a calling, and it has to be justified. So if you have that love, you please spread that love in a way that you can make many human beings for tomorrow.
So spreading love.
Yes.
So we'll take last two questions. So this we can discuss the importance of teaching critical thinking as a subject.
I think critical thinking as a subject, even when it was introduced to the classroom, okay, students were curious enough. Even we as teachers were curious enough to understand what this word exactly was. Okay, we thought that it was just a part of our day-to-day syllabus activity that we are carrying on. But when we started with it, the depth and the knowledge that we got from it, the experiences that we got from the students, and we ourselves experienced the change in ourselves. I think it is something that is very creative and very conservative to build good knowledge in the students, and something that is very value based. At the same time, I would also like to elaborate upon how the parents have seen critical thinking as a subject in our school curriculum. So parents were very surprised that why this particular book came into the school, why in the class. There are lots of queries. Okay, so when we had an open day, students had prepared various charts. So what they learned in that particular session, they had displayed it all in the class boards. Okay, so they themselves took their parents and showed it to them that what were the values that they were learning through this particular subject. So most of the parents actually were happy, and they came and gave a feedback that we are happy that our students are given this opportunity to learn something from this book called as critical thinking. So they went through the pages, they went through the book, because they gave an experience that they never had anything called as critical thinking as a subject when they were young others. So there was a lot of positive approach. There were one or two of them who were not very happy with why we need to have critical thinking when as a Cambridge curriculum and we have a scientific approach. So we had few of them. But later on, at the end of the year, they understood it as their own student or their own child, gave an approach which was very positive. So they accepted it that, okay, this is a part of growing for my child and this is beneficial for my child. So they've accepted that this subject is very good for us.
I think so. Fravashi International exclusively offers Cambridge curriculum. So they are familiar. Students are familiar with the critical thinking skills because they use it, especially at two levels. That's when they appear for their primary checkpoint and the secondary checkpoint. So they are applying their critical thinking skills when they are appearing for these standardized exams which are conducted by Cambridge. But what sets critical thinking apart is that in these classes they don't carry the academic baggage on their head. So there are no more scores, there are no more marks, there are no more grades. They are only free to put in their opinions on the table. So I think that's the reason why I think critical thinking sets it apart, and it should be taken up as a separate subject, so the skills are transferable.